Let's talk about headroom, keeping it relative. So these descriptions of sound are written on waveforms, which I'm sure, as you're familiar, are finite in range. The term headroom usually refers to how loud the signal is in relation to the point where the gear or the media will start to distort information. In analog or saturation gear, this is often wanted and is sometimes calibrated to happen above 0 dB, but this doesn't occur in digital domains. You generally have unlimited headroom in a DAW bus, and analog or modeled inserts in signal paths will often be calibrated to start breaking up around -18 dB full scale. Only when you get to the physical outputs of your converters will the signal path be clipped over 0 dB. Now that we have an ideal listening environment and are able to identify the symbols and contextualize waves, let's start to dive into the tools we use to solve some real-world examples. The magic word in audio, summing, is a fundamental principle where we can combine multiple sound sources. Often this term is the center of a debate roughly called analog versus digital. So let's try to address this very quickly. It's BS, dominated by marketing. The Nyquist-Shannon sampling theorem is the math that proves that if you have enough samples, you can perfectly describe a bandwidth of waves. We benefit from the application of digital sampling working perfectly all around us all the time. NASA isn't going back to magnetic tape because it has more clarity than digital storage, because it doesn't. Whatever is recorded digitally is produced perfectly every time. This is where analog equipment differs. The fundamental difference with analog gear is randomness. Analog gear will differ in extremely small amounts between each component, thus giving a random change to each signal in the path. This can lead to decorrelation between left and right signals, making things sound wider and softer. This effect is multiplied by the conversion inconsistencies inherent in a digital to analog converter, where each channel is output by a sample or more out of phase with the other channels, and with a different gain calibration. Saturation, modulation, and noise are also inherent in a lot of analog gear and can be used to a nice effect. These are all effects that are also possible in the box, where they are optional and useful exactly when you want them or need them. When the sound qualities of analog versus digital come into context, try to remember their different properties and ignore the marketing. There is no clarity, depth, punch, etc. inherent in analog gear that you would be missing in a DAW alone. I love and cherish all the analog gear that I've been able to use over the years. I know what analog summing sounds like because I was blessed to sit in front of an SSL console with racks of analog gear for years of my life and summed thousands of tracks through them. It sounds great, and more importantly, it's fun to use. But there is no magic. Can you imagine how great the SSL would be if it were magic though? Need the track to be better? Run it through the SSL. Need it to be even better? Just keep running it through the SSL until it's as good as it can be. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work like that. What you would end up with is just tons of noise. Why is summing waves perfect, or mostly perfect if it's analog? It's strictly addition of waves. And fortunately, this is a light task for all the electronics that we have. If wave 1 is summed with wave 2, the values at each instant will be added together to form a new wave with the information of the two encoded together. There's room for all the frequencies, but signals at the same frequencies will interfere with each other. Let's take a look at a max patch that I put together real quick to demonstrate summing. We've got a 10 Hertz wave and another 10 Hertz wave. They're being added together, plus sign. And you get another 10 Hertz wave that's twice as loud. Pretty intuitive. Now, if we were to make this 10 Hertz wave a 50 Hertz wave, now you have a pretty obvious correlation between the 10 Hertz fundamental and the 50 Hertz overtone. You can see they're literally stacked on top of each other.